Sometimes we get really caught up when we're in our mind, when we're doing something new and it feels really scary. So when we can start to really tap into our soul by using even like little tools outside of ourselves, this can help us like a pendulum, or like you were just saying, using your body, it starts to actually allow us to get the validation that we already know.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. All right, be it, babe. Get yourself a cozy space to sit in and listen to this. And if you can't because you're driving or you're working or you're doing a lot of things, that's okay. You're going to want to save this episode because I am so grateful for our guest today, Christina Deering. I was on her podcast, You Unlimited, and she's just a beautiful soul. And she's such a generous person, like just generous in everything that she is offering and sharing the knowledge that she has. And in today's episode, I have a notepad of like notes that I wrote down either on a book I want to read or on a thing I want to try, on a reminder of a way to do something, on a different way of doing something I've already heard about, like chock full of information to help us show up as our best versions of ourselves, as a person we want to be, of what our soul desires to be. And I know when people say soul or highest self, it's like, is this a little woo for me? It is not. This is your episode, especially for my perfectionists, my overachievers, my people pleasers. Here is Christina Deering. All right, be it, babe. This is going to be a lot of fun because I've already had an amazing conversation with our guest today, Christina Deering. And when I had that one on her podcast, I was like, well, you have to come over to mine because we're not done having an amazing time chatting. So Christina, can you tell everyone who you are and what you rock at?
Absolutely. Lesley, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to just deepen into this conversation that we had over on You Unlimited. It was so much fun on that podcast. So I'm Christina Deering. I am a shaman and a business intuitive. So I help people scale to six figures and beyond, doing what they love for a living.
So fun, but also for the people who've like, what? How do you become a shaman and do all this? Can you take us back a little bit? Where did this get started? Is this something you've always wanted to do? Is this something you fell into?
Yeah. I joke, I'm like the sorority girl turned shaman. Like it makes no sense to me too. Honestly, if someone had told me that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have laughed and been like, I don't understand what that means. So essentially what happened was I worked in marketing for 15 years and I just kept climbing the corporate ladder and feeling more and more empty. And I recognized that there was just a huge part of me missing. I'm like, I want to do something I love. Why don't I love this? I mean, I keep getting more money, promotions, but it doesn't feel good in my body. And so what I recognized was there had to be something more. So I ended up kind of starting to follow the breadcrumbs. Like the first breadcrumb was like, what if you were a life coach? You've always been interested in that. What if you just started to work with a life coach and saw what that looked like? And so that was my first step, was like, ooh, working with a life coach, that was really supportive. So then I became one and started learning the trade of actually, holding really powerful coaching sessions. And then there was a year of just learning where just all these modalities just kept flying my way, where it was like breath work, let's get certified in that. Reiki is actually a form of Japanese shamanism. So a lot of people are familiar with Reiki, and that is a form of shamanism. And so I was following all of these breadcrumbs. And then one of my healers, she's a shaman, and she's like, you're being called into shamanism. How does that feel? And I was like, well, it feels good in my body, but I have no idea what that means. I don't know. So let's do it. But let me Google that. What is a shaman? And so there's so many different forms of shamanism. You hear of the shamans that use plant medicine. You use, essentially the way that I use and tap into shamanism is I'm just helping people connect to their highest self, connect to their soul. And so I do that through deep healing modalities, through supporting people in unlocking their intuition and using their body as a tool to better understand what's in alignment with them. So lots of channeling that I do as well, which is like I can channel your highest self, channel your angels and guides, things like that. So that's the form of shamanism that I play in the most, which is just so much fun because there's so much guidance that's available to us. We just have to know how to tune into it.
Yeah. It sounds like as a shaman, you can actually help people be it till they see it because you are unlocking the things that are keeping them from being who they truly are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we just need that clarity and that guidance because for most of us, myself included, I was checking everyone else's boxes. And then I
Mm.
got there and I'm like, why doesn't this feel good? This was supposed to be like the ultimate, like I checked them all. What happened? And so it really is about tuning back into like, what do I want? What do I see? Who do I want to become? And then, oh, how do I get there? And a big part of that is heal what's in the way of what you want.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll have to tap into that. I completely understand. I think a lot of people listening can understand like checking all the boxes, climbing the ladder. I had to quit a job before they promoted me again because I like could
Yes.
not stop taking the promotions. You know,
For
like
sure. Hard to say no.
I did 2 jobs in a row and I was like,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, and I like to be helpful." I needed more money, so the promotion meant I could be helpful and get paid more. And then you're
Yes.
like, "Oh, but I have less time for myself. I'm not happier. I can pay my bills now, but I'm not happier, so this isn't helpful." So I totally understand that. Can you talk about heal what stops us? What are some things that you see are getting in the way of people unlocking their true potential?
Imposter syndrome. They're like, who am I to go after that? Am I allowed to have these big dreams? It's just a dream. I can't actually have that. A lot of that negative self talk that gets in the way of actually going for the thing that they want. Because when we can visualize it, we're actually tapping into future timelines. I think people are like, oh, I'm just daydreaming. And it's no, you're tapping into a future timeline. Do you like that? If you do, start
Mm,
moving towards it, follow the breadcrumbs and also heal what's in the way. Because the way that I see it is when we have that visualization, we're tuning into what we want. We see beyond that barrier we've been living in. And then we're like, oh, I want that. We come back in the box we've been living in, that barrier. And then we go to go after it and we hit the wall. We haven't even noticed that we've been living in this self imposed wall of all the stories we've been collecting from parents, friends, society on what it is that we're allowed to do or not allowed to do. And so from there, it's a lot of what is your unique wall that's here and where did that come from? And let's start to actually break that down. Sometimes it's from childhood. Some of these codes that we receive from people that we just start operating from. You can either get paid to do something you hate, or you can be a starving artist. That was what
yes.
I received when I was
Yes.
younger. Sure, you
Yes.
can be a singer if you want to be on the streets, and I'm like, well, wait, what? Or you can just get a desk job and be safe. And I had
Yeah.
to really start to pull apart that programming. And a lot of it's generational, it's passed down. Or if you believe in past lives, it's even further beyond that. So there's
Mhm.
just a lot there and it's unique to every single person. But ultimately, I think a lot of it is imposter syndrome and people have a lot of blocks around money. It's like a
Yeah.
charged topic. And so I love teaching on wealth energetics for that reason, because I feel like as a collective, we've kind of gotten it wrong about money. And when we think about it as energy, it changes the whole game.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So all the Plies instructors that work with us, I coach them on is like, if you undercharge because you think it's going to help you have more clients,
Mhm.
you will burn out because you're actually giving the same energy, like you're giving your value
Yes.
to them. The only
Yes.
way they can actually give you that energy back is
Uh-huh.
through money. That's the only way.
Yes.
They can't teach you. That's not who they are. And when you undercharge, they are paying back 70% of what your energy was. So by the end of
Oh,
the day, of course, you feel exhausted doing the thing that you love because you set it up where they can't even replace, they cannot repay the energy that you put out. Like it's not possible because you set it
so
up that way.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's such a potent way to look at it. And I always think about it too, where the price point is an invitation for both of you, where it's an invitation for the other person who's saying yes to it to expand into. Because if the price point is totally neutral, I usually say that room is too small for you. Like if it's just like, oh,
Mm,
whatever, sure, I'll do it. Find a bigger room. As a consumer, you want to step into a portal that's going to expand you and help you evolve. So
yeah.
this price point should feel a little bit stretchy for you because on the other side is a brand new version of you that I feel like we're all trying to get to. So
Yeah.
it's really empowering for the person to say like, actually, let me stretch into that. Let me step into something that's going to expand me versus keep me the same.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Yeah.
as the person, like you were just saying, as the person who's providing the service, you want to be able to show up with both feet in it. And if we're stretched thin and we're doing 50 different things, we can't serve the way that we know that we're meant to. So this is a way that allows us to really step in with both feet and fully serve the way that we desire to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I mean, like, I think a lot of people really have a money mindset because people
Totally.
my age, their grandparents probably were in the Great Depression. So
Mhm.
unless they were the rich ones, like my grandfather wouldn't even wear jeans because that's where poor people wore. When he was a
Uh-huh.
kid, you're poor, so you wore jeans. So he as a retired person, wore slacks every
Mhm.
day in his
Yeah.
house. These stories like money doesn't grow on trees, or, oh, when people get rich, they become terrible people. All these different things that keep us playing really small. And there's actual studies that show that when women make money specifically, the actual community thrives because women put the money back into the community. They support other women's businesses. They support small businesses. They give money to people who have it. And so in order for us to have bigger impact, we have to make more money. And then also, like you said, it forces us to step into, oh my gosh, if I'm going to charge something that scares me a little bit for that thing, that I have to show up even bigger. I'm going to show up
Yes.
even more. I'm not going to just like phone it in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love talking about that process of expanding your price point and how to actually normalize that in your body, because we have to get our body on board with new price points. And the second our body's on board, I call it normalized success in your body, everything changes.
Okay. Can we dive into that? Because I think people are probably
Absolutely.
listening and like in their body, hold on. Because you can talk
Yes.
about, you could write it down a bunch of times, but to say it, like your
Yes.
throat kind of closes and you get sweaty palms like that, it's going to come out the wrong way to the person who's hearing it.
100%, because people buy based on energy. So if they feel your energy on the other end of the screen or in person where you're like clenching your butt while you're giving the price point, they're like, I don't know, something feels off. And so what we have to do is it's a two-step process. First, we really have to find the value that we bring into every room we walk into. Start to really connect to the value that you bring to life. Like at the end of the day, start journaling. What am I proud of myself for? All the different things that we do every single day. What are the client testimonials? We have to really connect to the value of what we're offering. That's first. Second, this is like number one. The second you decide you want to expand your price point, we have to normalize that in the body. And what I do is I use EFT tapping. So I will tap
Mm.
while I visualize that thing going well, or I will say it out loud. So I'm witnessing this person coming on the call and we're diving into what it is that she's desiring. And then at the end of the call, I share the price point and I'm tapping. The entire time I'm tapping on my body as I'm visualizing this happening. And what I'm telling my body is it's safe for this visualization to happen. And
And are
my
you tapping
body
like
doesn't
on
know the difference.
your
Yes.
brows? What
Huh?
parts of your body do you tap?
Yeah. So there's different parts of the body. You could literally go on YouTube and type in emotional freedom technique or just type in tapping. And you're going to be tapping on your eyebrow, the inside, the outside, under the eye, under the nose. So there's different spots that we're tapping on the body. These are energy meridians that when they're tapped, it brings a calming sensation in the body. So now what
Mm.
I'm doing is I'm coupling a calming sensation with the thing that I'm stretching into. So now I'm telling my body it's safe to do that thing. It's normal. I've already done it. In my mind's eye, it's already happened. So when you do make the sale, it feels more like deja vu than it does like, oh God, I just said the price outside of my body and I'm scared. It's not that. Now you're like, of
Mm.
course, of course. So when someone pays you, it feels like, and of course, this has already happened. I do this with every single one of my clients and it completely changes the game for them.
Mm. I love that you brought up the value. We have to know what our values we bring into a room. We have to acknowledge that because I think a lot of people, when they are figuring out what they charge for their services or their products, what they're going to do, they're thinking like, what will people pay for this?
Yep.
And then they go, oh, well, in the area that I'm at, this is what people charge for these things.
Mhm.
Like I have flashcards, right? And on Amazon, we are very expensive for flashcards. If you look at, there's like there's no Pilates flashcards. There's like stretching flashcards. There's other kinds of things, and they're all like $25. And
Mhm.
ours are $65 to $115.
Mhm.
And I have people go, maybe we should make a cheaper deck that doesn't have all this stuff. We could just take the picture and the QR code. We could put it on a smaller card. We could put it on a thinner card, like all these different things to do it. So we can fit into what the going rate on Amazon for flashcards is. And I was like, I want people to save then for the cards that I have because the value that my cards bring is more than what we're charging and it's going to do X, Y, and Z things. So that's what I know and I'm going to stick with that. But I think if I wasn't sure of the value, if I wasn't clear on what it does, it would be so easy for me to get swept up in that. And then I'd have this product that I'm not excited about.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
that energy around it's not going to be great. I'm not going to put energy behind it to sell it. I'm going to hope it just does well when people Google exercise flashcards. Like it's just going to be this
Exactly.
generic thing.
I love that. Yeah. Holding the value. And then it feels like a luxury experience too. Like when someone's getting the flashcards, they're not just flimsy. They're like, these are really nice. Like it's like an experience when they're using them versus like, let me make it as cheap as possible so that someone can get it.
And then
Well,
not
then it's
use
kind of
it.
devaluing the whole experience you have with the cards. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then not use it because they didn't
Uh-huh.
have to expand to buy it, like you said before. So
Exactly.
okay. So value,
Mhm.
tapping and visualizing, And then it feels like deja vu. Okay. Was it always easy for you to look at money, or did you have to go through this? Did you have to find this block as well? Was
I
the
had
money?
to find the block for sure.
Yeah.
We grew up where there was an envelope of money that was available for us for the whole week. And that included groceries and anything else that we need, bills. And it was like, we have $200 this week for the whole family. So be really specific about what you need from the grocery store. You know what I mean? So I just remember that was a big memory that I had to clear, was like the grocery store always felt like a no, or like a, yeah, you can have it, but now I'm going to be passive aggressive to you for the remainder of the week, you know? And it was like, this just doesn't feel good, you know? So it didn't feel good to receive. It didn't feel good to ask. There was a lot of energy around that whole experience. So I had to do a lot of clearing around making money, receiving money, feeling safe with it. And what I think is really actually very fun too, that I like to do for price points, is I like to actually connect to my highest self on how to price. So that's something as well that I think one of my favorite things to do is to actually say, like, how does my soul want to price this? You seem really tuned in. You're like, my soul wants to price this deck of cards as XYZ. But for someone who's tuning in, I don't know how to price it. I'm going off of the market. It might be a little bit low. What I always do when I'm thinking about expanding my price or changing my price, which you'll know, the energy will feel a little heavy if your price point is too low. You'll be like, I don't really want to serve. It feels a little bit like resenting doing all this stuff during the day. That's when you know you need to raise your price. I actually use a pendulum to better understand how to price my offers. And I'm happy to dig into that even more if you want.
This is so fun. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So what I do, you can use your body as a pendulum, or you can use an actual pendulum. And I will use the pendulum and I will ask it 2 questions that I already know the answer to. So the first question I ask it is, my name is Christina. And then I see how the pendulum moves. So my pendulum will move in a circle. So now I'm acclimated to my pendulum when it's in alignment to say yes is going to move in a circle. Okay, great. So now I'm going to ask it a no question that I know the answer to. So I say, I live in New York City. And I don't. I live in Dallas, Texas. So then I see what my pendulum does. My pendulum moves back and forth. And I'm like, okay, now I know what my soul is telling me is a yes or no energetically with my pendulum. So then what I do is I will say, right before I'm going to ask a question, I will say, it is for my highest good and the highest good of all those connected to me and of the highest vibration to price my offer between $5,000 and $10,000. I start with a range. And then you see if your pendulum says yes or no. And the reason we start the question that way is because we want it to be the highest good, of course, for everyone involved, but we also want it to be highest vibration too, because sometimes highest good feels like a slap across the face. It's like someone gets sick, but they needed to get sick to remember their health and remember the vitality. And it's kind of that slap across the face. So it's like, okay, no, I want it to be both. I want it to be highest good and of the highest vibration. And then you'll just get closer and closer and closer into that price point. Then you'll lock into the price point. Maybe it's $7,777. Great. I've got my price. Now I'm going to normalize that in my body because my highest self wants to price it at that. My body's a little scared. My humanness is a little scared. Then I'm going to do the EFT tapping, normalize that price point in my body, visualize it going well. And then there you go.
Okay. Now I have to go buy a pendulum right after this call. I'm really excited about this. I love it. I actually, if you take your non-dominant hand and you put the thumb and ring finger together and you ask it, is my name Lesley Logan? And it goes through on you because that's not your name. It's because that's my name, right? So you have to, and you also have to be very specific. I can't say like, is Christina here? Because you are on Zoom with me. That would be confusing. But is Christina in Las Vegas? No, comes right through. So you ask it a series of yes, no's, and that you know the answer to, same thing. And then you can actually go, my doctor taught me this because I could go, because I didn't live near her. And I was like, okay, do I need to be taking X supplement? And it will go yes or no. And then, okay, so I can stop these today. I need these today. And it is crazy. I could ask myself, like, do I have H. pylori? And it will go, no, like, your body knows. So I love this pendulum, and you can use your body as a pendulum too. It can do the yes, no in that same way.
Absolutely.
And I like that because you're going off of that. I think a lot of times we get a little heady. So we get out of our soul, we get out of our highest self. I do think we should dive into what highest self is, because I think it's a term that gets thrown around in the woo world, and it can be in the woo. It can be in this planet too. We don't get distracted by the stories because it's like something we feel so deeply called to do. Okay. When you say highest self, what are you thinking?
Our highest self, based on what I've channeled, that's our soul. So we are tapping into our soul. What does our soul desire most to do? And our goal is to live in alignment with our soul. Like our
Mm.
mind is meant to be a humble servant to the soul, to the heart. Let the mind be the humble servant to the heart, to the soul. And so it's like when we come up with the idea, instead of having the brain create all these problems that it needs to solve, instead, let's use the brain to create something with it. Let's use it to create versus destroy. And so I
Mm.
think sometimes we get really caught up when we're in our mind, when we're doing something new and it feels really scary. So when we can start to really tap into our soul by using even like little tools outside of ourselves, this can help us like a pendulum, or like you were just saying, using your body, it starts to actually allow us to get the validation that we already know. Another way that I talk about intuition is like it's as simple as flipping a coin and then saying, okay, if it lands on heads, it's this. If it lands on tails, it's this. When you flip it and it lands, what's your gut response to the actual coin? It's not what the coin is saying. It's now I have to do that thing. Well, now you have your answer. You don't want to do the thing, right? But if
Yeah.
it lands on the thing and you're like, yes, that's your answer. We're just looking
Oh,
for
I
ways
love
to validate what we
Yeah.
already know. Yeah.
That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's kind of figuring out, oh, if you like have an instant reaction, like, oh, that sucks. It landed on that. That means you didn't want to
Yes,
do it. So now you have your
exactly.
answer. I love
We
it.
just need permission sometimes. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and to the perfectionist, just because you said you would do it if it landed on tails doesn't mean you have to.
Right, exactly. Right. Yes, it does not mean you have to actually follow your soul because ultimately we're placing our order with the universe every time we say yes. We're like, when I say yes, I want more of this. And then if I say no, I want less of this. But if I'm saying yes to something I don't really like, the universe is like, cool, let's send her more of it. We have to get really clear on what do we actually want because the universe will send us more of it when we say yes.
Yeah. It's really true. I hate admitting that because you start to realize, oh, I was calling in all that crap that I was going through because
Totally.
I kept
Yeah, we are sourcing it
focusing on
all.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, can we talk to the perfectionists who are listening? Because we have a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a hard time. Like if they told someone yes, they would do something. If they said they would, it's really hard for them to change course. What can we give them to kind of release some of that? My husband had to teach me it's okay. We told someone we go to that party. They're having the party, whether we're there or not. It's okay if we
Mhm.
say, sorry, something came up. And I'm like, oh my God,
Mhm.
how am I going to break this to them? Like I had a hard time. And now thankfully we've been married for a
Mhm.
long enough time that I'm like, okay, yeah, we got to change those plans. Let's invite them to dinner on a different night. So how can perfectionists let go of that stuff that's keeping them from being their highest self? Because maybe I'm wrong, but I have to imagine if you are being in perfectionist tendencies, you're
Mhm.
probably not in alignment with your soul all the time.
Right, for sure. Absolutely. And recovering perfectionist over here too. So I would say a couple different things. One, get ahead of the decision next time. Be proactive, tap into your soul, use your pendulum. Do I really want to go on this trip with friends? Do I really want to go to this dinner? And be in connection with your future self. Because sometimes we'll make a decision based on someone else's energy. Like we're like, oh my God, they're excited about it. So I'm just going to say yes, even though I don't really want to do it. Would you want to do it in 5 minutes? When you're saying yes to something, would you want to do it today? Would that feel good to do today? Or is there a part of you that's like, oh, I actually wouldn't want to do it today or tomorrow? Start to tune in ahead of time. But let's say you've already made the plans, you start to recognize you're just not feeling good, or it's something you just simply don't want to do. The people that are meant to be in your life will understand that. This is what I've come to know is I've now surrounded myself with people where I can say, I'm just not feeling good energetically. Like I'm tired. I love you so much. Is there any way we can do a rain check? I just want the best of me to be in the space. And just share that with that person. The people that are meant to be in your life will absolutely understand that. Right. And
Yeah.
those that don't have their own work to do around releasing things, letting things go. And sometimes we have to create boundaries around people that are holding us to an impossible standard to uphold.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's important too, of just recognizing who's starting to siphon away your energy versus fuel your energy. And you want the people that you're hanging out with to really have it feel like they're fueling your energy. You have vitality when you hang out with them and when you leave versus you're doing the thing and you feel depleted and you feel even more depleted afterwards. That's feedback from your soul on what's in alignment and what's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really true. I love the idea of getting ahead of things. I think if you have to write them in a note, like of all the different ways you can buy yourself time until you can get to a place where you can sit down and really, because sometimes we're busy, we got to get back, we feel like we have to get back to people. So
Mhm.
we respond quicker and we're not buying ourselves the time. So you can have
Totally.
notes of things you can copy and paste into a text and it buys you some time. I said this on the podcast before. We all know that we all have our calendars on our phone. We all
Yeah.
know that you and I both have, and I'll still say, oh, that could be really great. let me check my calendar.
Yes. Yes.
Because it does take some time to look at the whole calendar. Let me look what's happening before that, what's happening after that, how much is happening in that day.
Yes.
My assistant's job is to make sure I'm not on camera 7 hours of a day.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Perfect.
that's too much. That's too
Yeah.
much of me looking at a green dot. It's more draining than if I was with people for 7 hours. I could teach in person 7 hours, being on, it's a little bit different. So you've got to have that time. And so you have to buy yourself the time to sit down, look at it. How excited are you an hour later when you do look at that? Oh, no, actually, that all the efforting to do it doesn't sit well with me. I think that it's really important. And also, you're right. You said about the people that were around. If they can't understand that, maybe they're not the right people. And we have to release ourselves. It's not our job to teach them how to be okay with that.
100%. Yeah. I love that. And I always think about my to-do list. I actually did this for a little while where I felt like I just had way too much to do. I actually created a document that said, okay, write down your task and rate it from 1 to 10, 10 being total flow state, 1 being you would rather just do anything but this task, jump off a building, anything. And so I started recognizing the things that felt in total flow state. And then I recognized the things that were really low on the scale, whereas like anything 5 or below, I did one of 3 things. I would either I would trash it, throw it away. Like sometimes we have a to do that we just habitually do, but we don't actually have to do it. Do I really need to do that today? Do people die if I don't do this? So sometimes you can easily just trash that to do. If you can't do that, maybe the next is, can you delegate it? Do you have a team member? Can you give it to your partner? Can your kids do it? Can you ask another parent to come up to the school and do the thing? Delegate it. And then the third is, if I can't trash it and I can't delegate it, change the energy in which I'm doing it. So for instance, for me, when I was first starting out my business, contracts, bookkeeping, things like that did not excite me. So what I recognized was at that moment in time, I couldn't trash it. I couldn't delegate it at that moment in time. So I had to actually change the energy in which I was doing it. So what I did is I would take myself to a coffee shop. I would get matcha latte and I would sit down and I would listen to high vibrational music. And I'd be like, okay, I've got an hour here. I can knock this out. This is easy. And then I started training my mind and my body and my spirit, like, this feels good. This process feels good. So now when I do my bookkeeping and I do my contracts, I don't have to take myself to a coffee shop to do it. I'm like, this feels good. It feels good to be organized. It feels good to get it done. Let's just knock it out. And so that's a good way too of just starting to kind of train yourself to, if you can't throw it away and you can't give it away, start to change the energy in it, because it's true. Our day and the energy that we spend in our day-to-day matters. Let's honor it. And let's kind of take a look at what we're doing right now to see how we can honor it even more.
I really love that. And people know I love it. We have one of our dearest friends, one of my best friends and coaches. When I first met her, the thing that she taught me was like a joy and drain list. And you have to write down everything you have to do, everything you think you're responsible for in your life. That's personal, professional, all of it. You put it down and you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, similar thing. And you rate it. And then she's like, okay, if it's under a 3, 1, 2, and 3, you either have to delete it or delegate it, or we have to figure out what it is. And when you do that, you start to realize, oh, some of the things I was putting as a 4 or a 5 are really a 2, but I just liked them a little bit better than this thing over here.
Yeah.
I love the idea of changing the energy around it. If you can't get rid of it yet, you can play fun music while you do it. You can change your scene. Like you said, I think that's really cool. It does make it easier. And I had another person I talked to and I'm like, okay, let's talk about these millionaires. Though. Are they doing the dishes? What's going on? He's like, everyone still has to at least pick up their, like there's still things you got to do in life you don't like to do, but you can change your energy around. You can change the approach. Like, how does this allow you to do X, Y, and Z thing? If you don't like contracts, well, contracts actually allow you to show up in your highest light when you go to work with clients and protect you. So you're not resentful of the past self that said yes to the thing. So you can change your approach around it. I think that's a really brilliant tool. I love that. What are you most excited about right now? What are you working on, or what are you excited about your life? What can we celebrate with you?
Yeah. So I just launched a mastermind called Transcendence, which is amazing. This has been on my heart. And it just was one of these intuitive hits where it was like, just go. Because I had a coach that was like, wait for 3 weeks. I want to guide you into it. And I'm like, my body is telling me you have to go now. Don't ask questions, just go for it. There's people here that you need to support that are desiring to step into a portal that they can make 6 figures and beyond in their business. Just go for it. You don't have to ask for permission from anyone. So it was a very beautiful, intuitive process of launching Transcendence. There's so many incredible women who have stepped into the portal itself. And I'm so excited and grateful for these incredible coaches that are in the space and entrepreneurs that are in the space. It's a beautiful mix of entrepreneurs that are looking to scale. But what I really loved about this launch is I actually ended up doing it totally differently as well, where anything that felt heavy, I just put it down. So emails for me, I was like, it's 9 p.m. at night. I don't want to send out a bunch of emails. So I'm just not going to. And this was one of the best launches I've ever had in my entire business because everything about it was in alignment. I wasn't pushing, I wasn't forcing. It was just like, what feels good, follow the energy because there's a reason why it feels good. Your soul is giving you a ping to follow it. And so I just kept following the pings. And then it just was like creating itself and magnetizing in the women that are in the space. So I'm so excited to serve in that container. The women are incredible. And it just blows my mind that we launched 2 weeks ago and there's already like over 10 women in the space. And it's like, okay, let's go.
That's
Let's go.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
What you've brought up a couple of times, and I think there's a push and a pull, right? Like you can push, and sometimes we have to push, but really, whenever we're pushing, it's all effort and it's just a lot. And when you're pulling, yes, if you're pulling at the gym, you're like, Lesley, that's a row. But actually, the energy is pulling with you, like you're drawing things in. So another way of thinking about the word pull. And so it's what you are doing is not doing the things that felt heavy so you could do the things you're being pulled to do. And that was drawing more people into that energy and that space. And I can attest, like whenever I've done a lot of pushing in the business, some of the people that we attract are the people that let us push them into it and not necessarily pull them into it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're attracting a different client when you're pushing versus when you're just pulling.
Yeah.
You're just letting it magnetize in. And then it just feels so good on all sides.
Yeah. I have one more question for you that just came up as you were talking. For people who they're hearing this, they're like, yes, I want to be with my highest self. I want to be in my soul's alignment, but also that can feel far and away. They've spent a lot of time kind of out of alignment, years even, and they've got kids or other responsibilities. Their parents they have to take care of them. Can you talk about some signs in the body that might be evidence that they are needing to get more in alignment? What are they might be feeling? Because sometimes we don't know what we want, but we can know how we don't want to feel. And maybe we can address what they might be feeling that probably is evidence that they need to be moving towards themselves a little more.
Oh yeah. So the body is telling the story of the soul. So anytime we get pain, illness, anything that we're experiencing, sensations inside of the body, Louise Hay has this incredible book, Heal Your Body from A to Z. It's a good jumping off point of kind of connecting to what are the emotional reasons for the physical ailments that I'm experiencing. So like if you have an upper respiratory infection, you take the book, you open it, you see like, oh, where am I not speaking my truth? Sore throat. Where am I not speaking my truth? Interesting. Like our body is trying to tell us things, and the body is a really powerful tool because it's loud. We listen when we're in pain. We listen when we're experiencing illness, right? It's making us slow down. So we're not doing 900 things a day. We're being called to lay in bed so that we can start to get into deeper alignment. So usually when the body is speaking really loudly, it's just simply telling us there's something that's out of alignment here energetically. So that book is actually a really great jumping off point of just kind of being like, why don't I just see what nosebleeds mean? Or why don't I just see what a sore ankle means? What does that look like? And does what's listed here resonate with me? If so, where is that from? And where can I start to shift that? Right? It's very interesting when she talks about that. So that I think is a great jumping off point of starting to tune in and say like, okay, body, what are you trying to tell me? And sometimes if it's not in the book, I'll just place my hands over that area of the body and just be like, okay, chest, what message do you have for me? And I just kind of tune in and just see if like an image pops up, like dad, or the argument I had with like spouse, and then I'm like, oh, it must be related. Let me start to forgive myself for that or forgive him for that. And then you'll start to notice physical sensations will actually begin to move the second we recognize that it's just wisdom, but we have to move the energy that's trying to get our attention that's in the way. There's always wisdom underneath the physical ailment. And all we have to do is move that energy through healing or just recognition or awareness. And then the wisdom comes to the surface and then it can dissipate. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. I love both of those options. Thank you. Very helpful. Very, very helpful. Yeah. All right. We're going to take a brief break and then find out how people can find you, follow you, work with you. All right, Christina, tell us where you like to hang out. Where can they stalk you in the best way? Where can they, if they're like, hold on, this woman spoke to me so much, I feel her in my, well, how can they work with you?
I love it. Amazing. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is I am Christina Deering. So it's CH for the Christina, and then Deering is Deering. You can find me there. You can also find me on the You Unlimited podcast, where we had Lesley on just recently. I mean, people absolutely loved that episode. The feedback I got from it was just like so many DMs from all the magic and wisdom that you brought into that space. So You Unlimited, it's one of my favorite places to play because incredible people are magnetized into that space. And my intention for it is that you receive the exact medicine your soul is desiring. So when you tune into it, just let your intuition guide you. Which one feels most exciting or juicy to listen to? There's medicine in there for you. Click that one. Listen to that one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's so brilliant. And what a great way to practice listening to what feels good, what you're drawn to.
Yeah.
You've given us so much already, actually, but we can't let you get away without the bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted steps people can take to be it till they see it. What do you have for us?
You know, I covered a little bit of that today. Again, our daydreams are just us looking into our future timelines. So let yourself daydream, let yourself visualize, give yourself the spaciousness to connect to the thing that feels exciting and start thinking about it like it's a future timeline. Instead of thinking, oh, it's just a dream, there's no way, or who am I to let yourself dream for a little bit, because it's going to start to get you into a higher vibrational state as you move towards it. The other thing that's really tactical that I love to do that always really supports me when I'm going after what I want is David R. Hawkins has this map of consciousness. So you could literally Google David R. Hawkins map of consciousness. And what it does is it basically says, what is the vibrational level of emotions? So like when I'm in a state of, like when you think about what you're manifesting, what would you feel when you're manifesting that thing? You'd probably feel love, you'd feel peace. If you want to manifest in a 6-figure business, you're going to feel peace, you're going to feel love. So when you look at that chart, it actually is operating at a 600 on a vibrational frequency scale. Great. So that's where I get to be more often so that I'm in energetic alignment to the thing I'm calling in. So it kind of gives you like an actual mental picture or an idea of what that means to be a vibrational match for something. Because when people would be like, be a vibrational match, I'm like, that is so conceptual. What does that even mean? That's subjective. I don't know what to do with that. But the second I stumbled upon David R. Hawkins' map of consciousness, I realized, okay, if peace and love is operating at a 600 and that's what my manifestation is operating at, then now I'm feeling shame for the thing that I just did or guilt for the thing that I just did. What's the vibrational frequency of that? 30. Okay, what this map is literally telling me is I'm out of alignment with the thing that I want. So what I always ask myself is my need to be right about this thing more important than what I'm manifesting? And if it's not, change the energy in it. Because so often we're like, I'm right, my husband's wrong, or my kid is wrong, or, we just want to we want to be right so badly. But what we're not recognizing is it's keeping our frequency low. So it's blocking our manifestations. So the second we can start to actually see that on a scale and say like, wow, I am in a lower vibrational state. So I am blocking my manifestations. Is my need to be right more important than what I'm manifesting, which is a 6-figure business where I feel peace and joy? No, my need to be right is not more important than that, because this is going to deeply impact the planet and I can give my husband a break and myself a break. Yeah. So that's a very tangible and tactical way to start to think about vibration, to start to be it till you can actually become it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's this idea of like your frequency matters, the energy that we're in matters, our emotions matter. So acknowledge them, let them be okay, but also choose to shift them into a higher frequency emotion. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. And I think what a great way to take a pause and get realigned and go, oh, I'm so focused on this over here. I'm way away from what I want to be on. Like, I think that's really excellent advice. Christina, you're so fun. And you guys do have to go listen to the You Unlimited podcast. It's so freaking great. It's so wonderful. You have such amazing guests. And I love all the things you gave us today. I feel like I could take a workshop on each one of these individually. And you gave me some new readings. I'm so great. So thank you so much for being here. Be it, babe. Thank you for listening. Please share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Maybe you need to have a few of your friends. You can hold yourselves accountable on, buying yourself time for your future self to decide what it wants to do, or figuring out what you're going to get rid of or delegate or change your energy around. And please let Christina know, tag the Be It Pod with your takeaways. And until next time, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast.
One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Beit Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day. Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at beitpod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the epic team at Diseño.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.